Look at the rim of a ceramic coffee mug resting on a wooden desk. Notice the faint, nearly invisible rings of moisture left behind. Watch the person sitting there swallow hard. Their fingers trace the collar of their shirt. They clear their throat softly. It is a small, dry rasp that barely breaks the silence of the room. Nobody pays attention to this micro-movement. Co-workers continue typing. Family members keep scrolling through their phones. But that tiny, involuntary flutter in the throat holds a terrifyingly beautiful secret. It is the sound of biology breaking its own rules. I have felt it myself. You have probably felt it this morning. It begins as a phantom tickle at the very base of the neck, right where the clavicles meet. It does not feel like the onset of a winter cold. There is no fever. There is no congestion. Instead, there is a strange, persistent density, a feeling of microscopic static electricity buzzing beneath the skin. You drink a glass of water, but the water is cold and slides down easily, but the sensation remains untouched. You drink hot tea with honey. The warmth coats the tissue, yet the deep internal vibration ignores the remedy entirely. It is not happening in the mucous membranes. It is happening in the architecture of your being. Right now, millions of people are walking around with this exact same anomaly. They wake up and their voice drops an octave. They speak to a loved one and the sound comes out hollow. Sometimes it is husky. Sometimes it cracks into a high-pitched splinter of sound mid-sentence. They apologize and say they must have slept directly under the air conditioning. They blame the changing of the seasons. They blame the dry winter air or the spring pollen. Humanity is endlessly creative when it comes to ignoring the profound. We invent mundane excuses for spiritual earthquakes, but the truth is far more complex than allergies or fatigue. We must look at what the throat actually is. It is the bridge between the heart and the mind. It is the narrow corridor where invisible thought becomes physical sound. For decades, our biological vessels have accommodated a very specific frequency of consciousness, a dense, earthbound frequency. Our vocal cords are accustomed to vibrating within a limited, safe spectrum, but something fundamental has shifted. The soul inside you is expanding. It is outgrowing the tight, carbon-based container it was born into. Imagine trying to force a thunderstorm into a glass jar. The glass will not simply hold the storm in peace. It will vibrate, it will heat up, it will endure immense friction. That scratchy, unexplained hoarseness is literal friction. It is the friction of a massive, multidimensional consciousness pushing against a dense physical constraint. They go to specialists. Ear, nose, and throat doctors insert tiny cameras down the pharynx. The bright LED lights illuminate the pink tissue. The doctors stare at the high-definition monitors. They look for nodules. They search for inflammation or acid reflux damage. They find absolutely nothing. The tissue is perfectly healthy. The vocal folds are structurally intact. The doctor prescribes a mild antacid and sends the patient home. The patient walks out to their car, confused. They turn the key in the ignition. They try to hum a song on the radio and the phantom static returns, a subterranean hum that vibrates the jawbone. Medicine cannot diagnose what it cannot measure. Science is looking for disease. It has no instruments to measure an evolutionary hardware upgrade. This brings us to the most terrifying and magnificent puzzle piece of our time. Your vocal cords are not merely muscles and cartilage anymore. They are undergoing a secret alchemy. They are transforming into crystalline receivers. Think of the earliest radios. They used literal quartz crystals to catch invisible waves from the sky. The crystal was the only material, sensitive enough to translate silent frequencies into audible sound. Humanity is becoming the radio. The soft, fleshy hardware of the human throat is being forced to crystallize. It is a painful, relentless biological upgrade. Carbon is being squeezed until it holds the resonance of quartz. This is why the voice cracks. This is why the pitch drops into strange, unfamiliar depths. The old biological wiring is being bypassed. You are being tuned. Tuned for what? Why is the body subjecting itself to this uncomfortable metamorphosis? Because a broadcast is coming. An impending, unseen energetic signal is washing toward our solar system. It is a frequency, so high, so pure, that unupgraded biology would simply shatter under its weight. We are approaching the year 2026. The timeline is narrowing. This broadcast will not be heard with the ears, it will be received by the throat. The throat must be ready to catch the signal, decode it, and speak the new reality into existence. The phantom vibrations you feel at night are test signals. Your body is pinging the universe. It is adjusting the dial, seeking the exact calibration needed to survive the incoming wave. I remember standing in the shower when the pitch drop hit me. The hot water was beating against the tiles. Steam filled the small room, smelling of eucalyptus and whetstone. I tried to sing a familiar tune just casually to myself. What came out of my mouth was not my voice. It was ancient. It reverberated deep in my chest cavity, rattling my ribs. It sounded like two massive stones grinding together at the bottom of the ocean. I stopped, breathless. My hand flew to my neck. I felt a distinct buzzing beneath my fingertips. Not a pulse, a mechanical, almost electrical hum. I stared at the foggy mirror. I realized in that moment that I was no longer just human. I was becoming an instrument. For thousands of years, mystics understood the power of the vocal folds. Tibetan monks, trained for decades to achieve throat singing. They learned to produce multiple overtones simultaneously. They forced their biology to channel the divine through vibration. What took them a lifetime of brutal monastic discipline is now happening to you spontaneously, while you are stuck in rush hour traffic, while you are folding laundry. The evolution is no longer reserved for the ascetic. It has come for the ordinary citizen. This democratization of spiritual biology is chaotic. People do not know how to handle the sudden gravity in their own words. Have you noticed how some people's voices now command an inexplicable authority? They speak softly, yet the entire room falls dead silent. Their words carry a strange heavy mass. It feels physical. When they speak, you feel their voice hit your breastbone. That is the crystalline resonance at work. Their upgraded throat is transmitting a frequency that bypasses the intellect and strikes the soul directly. But the process of getting there is intensely solitary. You wake up in the middle of the night. The house is completely quiet. You can hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen, and then you feel it. The micro-tremor, a frantic, microscopic fluttering right behind the Adam's apple. It feels as if a moth is trapped beneath the cartilage. You swallow hard, trying to drown it. You panic for a brief second. Your mind races through medical horrors. Is it a nerve spasming? Is it a thyroid collapse? But there is no pain. There is only this profound rhythmic vibration. It is a Morse code from your own expanding DNA. Your biology is literally talking to you. It is whispering that the vessel is being altered. Let us examine the concept of friction again. When a snake sheds its skin, the process is not gentle. The old skin becomes tight. It dries out. It suffocates the growing creature underneath. The snake must rub its head against sharp rocks to tear the old biology away. The hoarseness you feel is your soul rubbing against the sharp rocks of the third dimension. You are shedding an old communication system, the system built on lies, half-truths, and suppressed emotions. The dense flesh of the throat holds decades of unspoken trauma. Every time you swallowed your anger, every time you held back your tears, every time you agreed when you wanted to scream, all of that energetic debris became lodged in the tissue of the neck. Now, the incoming frequency is burning that debris away. The crystallization process requires absolute purity. You cannot transmit the new Earth frequency through a throat clogged with old cowardly silences. The phantom static is the sound of those old silences being incinerated. The year 2026 is not just a date on a calendar, it is an energetic threshold. Astrophysicists are already observing strange anomalies in cosmic radiation, unexplained bursts of energy hitting our magnetosphere. Mainstream science records these as data anomalies. They archive the charts and move on. But your body knows exactly what those bursts are. They are the preamble, the tuning notes of an orchestra before the symphony begins. Your throat is desperately trying to tune its crystal to match the pitch of the incoming wave. If the biological hardware is not upgraded in time, the signal will pass right through us. We will remain deaf to the universe. But biology is resilient. The human body is an absolute marvel of adaptive engineering. It will sacrifice comfort to ensure survival. It will force the throat to crack, to dry out, to vibrate uncontrollably. It will build the crystal. The physical shedding is only the prologue. Once the biological hardware is upgraded, the true esoteric mechanics activate. We are entering the era of the harmonic code. You must understand a terrifying but liberating truth. You are no longer in control of what your voice says about you. For centuries, humanity has used language to hide. We carefully select our words to project confidence. We modulate our pitch to mimic empathy. We build complex masks out of vocabulary. That era is officially over. Your vocal timbre is now an involuntary broadcasting station. It transmits your exact soul progression status. It broadcasts your lingering karmic debt. It announces your spiritual hierarchy to the invisible world. And increasingly, it announces it to everyone around you. People may not consciously understand why your voice suddenly gives them chills. They might not know why a simple morning greeting from you makes them want to weep. But their subconscious is perfectly equipped to hear the hidden frequencies. We have identified 10 distinct tonal mutations, 10 specific markers of the soul blueprint pushing through the flesh. This is the ultimate diagnostic tool for spiritual maturity in the coming age. The first mutation is the sub-bass resonance of past life integration. I felt this for the first time late one evening. I was speaking to a close friend about a completely mundane topic. Suddenly, the center of my chest began to vibrate with a heavy, ancient warmth. My voice dropped a full octave without my permission. It did not sound like a forced baritone, it sounded like a subterranean river moving under thick bedrock. This resonance occurs when the soul retrieves fragmented memories from previous incarnations. The wisdom of centuries suddenly drops into the lower chakras. It thickens the vocal cords with undeniable gravity. When you speak with this sub-bass frequency, people stop moving. They halt their restless, fidgeting. The ambient noise in a crowded room seems to defer to your pitch. You are no longer just speaking for your current identity. You are speaking with the accumulated weight of every lifetime you have ever survived. Listen for this rumble when you are physically exhausted, but strangely peaceful. The second marker is the breath gap tremor of karmic exhaustion. They walk through life believing they are energized. They drink their stimulant beverages and perform their daily routines. But when they speak, a microscopic tremor fractures the airflow. It happens exactly at the end of a sentence. The voice suddenly trails off into a fragile, airy vibration. This is not medical fatigue. This is the sound of an energetic ledger balancing itself in real time. Your soul is actively paying off ancient debts while you order your lunch. The tremor reveals that a massive percentage of your life force is currently diverted. It is working intensely behind the scenes, dissolving karmic knots. If you hear your voice shaking into silence, do not force it to be loud. Allow the breath to fail gracefully. That slight gasp is the sound of a generational curse finally snapping. The third alteration is the metallic overtone of truth synchronization. Imagine sitting in a sterilized corporate boardroom. Someone asks you a direct question about your commitment to a flawed project. You intend to give a polite, socially acceptable lie. You open your mouth to deliver the rehearsed deception, but a sharp, almost synthetic ringing coats your words. The lie physically tastes like copper on the back of your tongue. Your pitch becomes inexplicably harsh. This mutation makes deceit biologically impossible to mask. The upgraded throat crystal actively rejects lower frequency falsehoods. When you finally speak your absolute truth, the metallic edge vanishes instantly. It is immediately replaced by a warm, resonant clarity. Your soul is installing a fail-safe mechanism against self-betrayal. You can no longer compromise your core essence just to keep the peace. The metallic overtone will betray you to the listener before you finish the syllable. We move to the fourth stage, the whisper pitch of empathic overload. I have watched highly evolved individuals retreat into this frequency constantly. They enter a bustling, neon-lit supermarket. The chaotic energy of 100 anxious shoppers hits their aura like a physical blow. When they reach the cashier, their voice drops to a near whisper. It is not shyness or social anxiety. It is an automatic defense protocol. The throat constricts to limit the intake of ambient grief. By speaking in a soft, highly compressed pitch, the empath seals their energetic perimeter. But there is a beautiful paradox hidden here. This whisper actually commands more attention than a shout. It carries a dense, localized gravity. People lean forward instinctively. They lower their own voices to match the sacred quietness. The empathic whisper creates an instant oasis of calm in a fractured environment. The fifth tonal shift brings us to the harmonic dissonance of shadow bleed. This is perhaps the most unnerving stage of the entire process. You are laughing loudly at a joke. You are casually recounting a pleasant memory to a stranger. But beneath the cheerful melody of your voice, a secondary frequency emerges. It sounds slightly out of tune with your words. It carries a subtle, melancholic friction. This is your unhealed shadow, demanding immediate representation. The new vocal blueprint refuses to let you present a purely sanitized version of yourself. If you carry suppressed grief, it will bleed directly into your joy. The listener will hear your laughter, but they will feel an inexplicable urge to comfort you. The harmonic dissonance alerts the spiritual hierarchy that you are undergoing deep extraction. It signals that your darkest emotional basements are finally being swept clean. You cannot hide your pain behind a polite smile anymore. Your vocal cords will broadcast the ache until the trauma is fully integrated. Then comes the sixth marker, the crystal staccato of timeline severance. Have you ever heard someone speak with sudden, terrifying precision? Every syllable is perfectly clipped. Every consonant hits the air like a falling blade. There is no hesitation, no filler vocabulary, no trailing off. I experienced this during a profound moment of personal boundary setting. I did not meticulously plan my words, but when I spoke, my voice sounded like ice breaking over a frozen lake. This staccato rhythm manifests when your higher self is actively cutting away dead timelines. You are literally severing energetic cords with the sharp edge of your diction. Relationships built on codependency shatter entirely against this frequency. Parasitic attachments dissolve instantly when struck by this crystal clarity. It is a merciless tone, but it is the necessary mercy of the surgeon's scalpel, removing the infection to save the limb. The seventh mutation profoundly softens the blow. It is the velvet subvocalization of healing proximity. Some voices feel like a heavy blanket draped over shivering shoulders. These individuals do not need to say profound or philosophical things. They can read the ingredients on a cereal box and bring a listener to tears. This mutation coats the lower vocal registers with a thick, magnetic resonance. It is the undeniable mark of a soul that has transmuted its own deep trauma into medicine. When an individual with this mutation speaks near you, your nervous system responds immediately. Your cortisol levels plummet. Your breathing deepens involuntarily. Their vocal frequency bypasses your analytical mind entirely. It speaks directly to the frightened animal residing in your lower brain. It whispers that you are finally safe. They are broadcasting a localized, mobile field of energetic sanctuary. The eighth shift introduces the dual chord fracture of dimension straddling. Listeners often describe this as hearing two distinct voices coming from one mouth. The primary voice handles the physical articulation of the earthly words. A faint secondary pitch seems to hover just above the speaker's skull. It creates an eerie, almost synthetic chorus effect. Modern science might attempt to label it diplophonia. Esoteric mechanics reveal it as the ultimate sign of a split consciousness. Part of your awareness remains firmly anchored in the dense physical plane. The other part is simultaneously operating in the fifth dimensional, quantum field. The biological vocal cords strain to accommodate two vastly different atmospheric pressures. When you hear the dual chord fracture, you are listening to a living bridge. The speaker is acting as a literal translator between realms. Their voice contains the beautiful friction of two colliding realities. The penultimate stage is the ninth mutation, the absolute stillness of ego surrender. This is also known among advanced initiates as the void pitch. This marker is not about the sound of the voice itself. It is about the profound, deafening quality of the silence between their words. When an ego-driven person pauses, the silence feels highly anxious. It feels like a temporary, uncomfortable gap waiting to be filled with more noise. When a completely surrendered soul pauses, The silence feels heavy. It feels like looking over the edge into a deep, starless ocean. I have sat in rooms with masters who possess this specific trait. Their words are remarkably brief, but the space after their words expands and consumes the entire atmosphere. The void pitch is the acoustic footprint of an ego that has entirely stopped defending itself. There is no desperate need to convince, to argue, or to prove intelligence. The voice simply deposits a truth into the air and lets the cosmic silence do the rest. This particular silence is deeply intimidating to the unawakened mind. It acts as a flawless mirror, reflecting all their internal chaos directly back at them. Finally, we arrive at the absolute apex. The 10th mutation, the polyphonic echo of higher self-alignment. This is the ultimate goal of the biological upgrade culminating in 2026. When this mutation fully activates, the illusion of separation collapses entirely. You open your mouth to speak, but you are not the only author of the words. A rich polyphonic texture saturates every single tone. It sounds incredibly expansive, as if you are speaking inside a massive ancient cathedral. Every vowel carries multiple harmonic layers vibrating simultaneously. You are broadcasting your pure, unadulterated soul blueprint without a single distorted frequency. There is no karmic tremor left to shake the breath. There is no shadow bleed waiting to disrupt the joy. There is only absolute, blinding alignment with source energy. To hear someone speak with the polyphonic echo is a genuinely life-altering event. It forcefully triggers latent DNA strands in the listener just through raw acoustic vibration. Your voice physically becomes a geometric key. It unlocks the dormant spiritual architecture in anyone who steps within your acoustic radius. You are no longer merely communicating data. You are orchestrating the physical awakening of the collective consciousness. These 10 mutations are not poetic metaphors. They are aggressive physiological changes driven by sheer cosmic necessity. Your physical throat is being forcefully rewired into a quantum transmitter. Every time you feel your pitch unexpectedly crack, celebrate it. Every time your tone shifts unpredictably in a conversation, honor the process. You are passing successfully through the diagnostic checkpoints. Your spiritual hierarchy is being displayed for the entire universe to witness. You are mastering the harmonic code. We must now violently zoom out from the microcosm of your individual throat. Look at the sweeping landscape of human society. Something deeply unsettling is happening quietly in the background. You have likely felt the phantom tremors of this quake for months. It does not look like a traditional revolution. There are no protests in the streets for this specific cause. News anchors cannot quantify the data on their glowing screens. Yet, the bedrock of our collective reality is visibly fracturing. We are approaching the great acoustic schism. This is the subconscious division of human timelines. It is a silent tearing of the social fabric. The thread pulling it all apart is entirely invisible to the naked eye. It is the raw frequency of the human voice. By the time we reach the winter of 2026, this fracture will become absolute. We are currently living through the chaotic sorting phase. I watch families sitting at dinner tables, separated by an ocean of dimensional static. A husband speaks to his wife of 20 years. He asks a simple, mundane question about the groceries. Suddenly, a wave of profound nausea washes over her. She physically recoils from the sound. It is not the words he chose, it is the flat, leaden, metallic resonance carrying those words. His vocal frequency is anchored entirely in the third-dimensional construct of fear and lack. Her frequency has subtly shifted into a higher octave of light. The two acoustic waves collide violently in the space between the salt and pepper shakers. It creates a dissonance so harsh it physically hurts her nervous system. Her stomach contracts involuntarily. The air in the room suddenly feels thick and unbreathable. This is happening in boardrooms, in coffee shops, in bedrooms across the globe. Lifelong friendships are dissolving overnight without a single argument. You sit across from someone you have known since childhood. They open their mouth to speak. You suddenly realize you are listening to a stranger. Their voice sounds like grinding gears. Their syllables clatter against the floor like broken glass. The tone feels heavy, pulling down on your chest cavity like wet concrete. You smile politely, but your soul is already packing its bags. You cannot bear to exist in their acoustic radius for another second. Logic demands you stay loyal to the shared history. Your biology demands you flee the dissonant frequency. Biology always wins. Conversely, you are experiencing the most intense, unexplainable attractions of your life. You walk into a crowded room, someone across the floor laughs or speaks a single sentence. You do not even see their face. You have no idea what they do for a living. You do not know their age, their background, or their beliefs. But your heart leaps violently in your chest. Your spine tingles with an electric warmth. An invisible tractor beam latches onto your solar plexus. You are helplessly pulled across the room toward them. When they speak, their voice feels like a roaring fireplace on a freezing night. It feels like an ancient memory of home. Their acoustic signature perfectly matches the harmonic geometry of your awakening soul. This is not romantic infatuation. This is not superficial networking. This is biological timeline matching. The universe is using raw sound to group its passengers before the final departure. Those vibrating at the frequency of control, anxiety, and density are naturally clustering together. Those vibrating at the frequency of expansion, sovereign power, and love are finding each other. We are subconsciously forming acoustic tribes. The sorting process completely bypasses the logical brain. You cannot think your way into a harmonic match. You can only feel it in the marrow of your bones. Ancient civilizations understood this sorting perfectly. They built resonant chambers in stone temples to measure a person's frequency. Before granting access to inner sanctums, initiates were forced to speak into the dark. If your voice carried the discordant tremor of deceit, the acoustics of the room would amplify it. The stone itself would expose the lie. We forgot this ancient technology of listening. We spent centuries prioritizing the content of the dictionary over the music of the breath. We allowed silver-tongued sociopaths to lead nations because the words sounded rational. We completely ignored the cold, reptilian hum vibrating underneath their speeches. That era of auditory blindness is officially over. The human ear is mutating to hear the soul. You are suddenly hypersensitive to manipulation. When someone lies to you now, you do not just suspect it mentally. You feel the lie as a sharp, discordant scratch against your eardrum. The pitch drops. The harmonics shatter. The falsehood registers as literal noise pollution. People are finding themselves physically unable to tolerate corporate jargon. Political doublespeak makes them dizzy. Hollow gossip drains their life force in seconds. The acoustic pollution makes the awakened mind physically ill. This is your body demanding absolute alignment. It is forcibly pulling you away from the dying timeline. This brings us to the monumental threshold of 2026. This year is not a random date plucked from a doomsday prophecy. It is the mathematical culmination of a planetary harmonic cycle. Imagine two giant tuning forks standing side by side. For thousands of years, they vibrated at roughly the same dense pitch. Humanity shared one collective reality, bound by the gravity of sheer survival. But over the past decade, one fork began to dramatically accelerate. Its frequency climbed higher, faster, lighter. The other fork remained heavy, deeply rooted in the old paradigm of conflict and control. Right now, we are stretching the energetic rubber band between these two frequencies. The tension is excruciating. We feel it in the daily exhaustion, the sudden mood swings, the bizarre social interactions. By the end of 2026, that rubber band will finally snap. The two frequencies will no longer be able to occupy the same dimensional space. Humanity will definitively split into entirely separate, evolutionary timelines. This concept is profoundly difficult for the logical mind to grasp. You might ask how two realities can exist on one physical Earth. Think of a standard car radio. There are hundreds of stations broadcasting through the air in your room right now. Classical music, heavy metal, talk radio, jazz, they all exist in the exact same spatial volume. They permeate the same oxygen, but they do not interfere with each other. If your dial is tuned to 99.5, you will never hear the heavy metal playing on 88.1. You are completely oblivious to its existence. By 2026, humans will become walking radio receivers locked onto completely different bandwidths. The people vibrating at the old density will simply slide out of your peripheral vision. You will stop running into them. Your life paths will stop intersecting organically. If you do find yourself in the same physical grocery store, it will feel like looking through thick, hazy glass. They will experience their timeline of chaos, economic collapse, and relentless drama. You will experience your timeline of synchronicity, community creation, and profound peace. The bridge between these two worlds will slowly evaporate. The overlap will cease to exist, this terrifying yet shattering revelation carries an ultimate truth. Your entry pass into the higher timeline is not your bank account balance. It is not your impressive spiritual resume. It is not the number of silent meditation retreats you have attended. Your passport is the baseline frequency you emit every single time you open your mouth. Your vocal cords are the strict gatekeepers to your dimensional reality. You cannot fake a vibration. You cannot pretend to be enlightened while your throat broadcasts a frequency of deep-seated bitterness. The physics of the universe do not care about your noble intentions. They only respond to your geometric resonance. Every word you speak is actively selecting your timeline. When you complain, gossip, or speak from a place of chronic victimhood, you are twisting the radio knob. You dial back down to the dense station. You are literally tethering yourself to the collapsing reality with ropes of sound. When you speak with clarity, fierce compassion, and sovereign authority, you lock yourself into the ascending timeline. The universe listens to the song of your vocal cords and firmly places you in the corresponding reality. I see people frantically trying to prepare for the future. They stockpile physical resources in dark basements. They obsessively build bunkers to hide from the storm. They desperately seek external saviors in politics or technology. They are looking in the entirely wrong direction. The true sanctuary is fundamentally acoustic. The ark that survives the coming flood is built strictly out of harmonic resonance. The people you are naturally drawing towards you right now are your designated timeline crew. Pay very close attention to who your body deeply relaxes around. Notice whose voice acts as a soothing balm to your frayed nervous system. These are not random social preferences or lucky encounters. These are survival coordinates clearly provided by your higher self. The great acoustic schism will be ruthless in its mathematical precision. It cares absolutely nothing for biological family trees. It cares nothing for signed legal contracts. It only obeys the universal law of harmonic matching. Let us pull back the fragile lens of human perception until the blue atmosphere of Earth fades into a tiny pale speck. Let us drift outward past the frozen rings of Saturn and the silent edge of our solar system. We are entering the grand, mind-bending architecture of the deep cosmos. Modern science tells a very specific, incredibly depressing story about this vast expanse. They look through their curved glass lenses and declare that the universe is comprised mostly of nothing. They insist it is a dark, freezing vacuum filled entirely with mysterious, dead dark matter. They are staring directly at the ultimate truth and completely missing the magic. There is absolutely no empty space. There is no silent, lifeless void. The sprawling distance between the galaxies is a surging, infinite ocean of primordial sound. I want you to vividly imagine the violent birth of a distant nebula. We are conditioned to see it as a silent explosion of neon gas and stellar dust. But true cosmic vision requires you to hear the image. That sprawling cloud of crimson and ultraviolet light is actually a sustained, deafening chord. It is a frequency so pure and overwhelmingly heavy that it forces raw matter to coalesce. The spiraling arms of the Milky Way do not spin because of blind gravitational luck. They curl inward because they are actively following the crest of a massive acoustic wave. Planets form safely in the quiet valleys of these sweeping cosmic soundscapes. Suns ignite exactly at the precise intersection of two overlapping harmonic vibrations. Even the terrifying void of a black hole is not an instrument of chaotic destruction. It is the profound, necessary musical rest placed between the soaring movements of a divine symphony. The fabric of universal destiny is not held together by the weak force of gravity. It is orchestrated entirely by geometric resonance, I have spent long nights staring at the dark canopy of the sky, feeling this ancient hum vibrate through the soles of my feet. The solid ground we walk upon is actively singing. Our planet rings in the dark, like a massive bell forged of iron, saltwater, and magma. For countless generations, humanity has remained stubbornly deaf to this monumental performance. We moved blindly across the skin of a vibrating drum, convinced that reality was solid and mute. We built our entire civilization on the stubborn illusion of silent, dense matter. But every single thread of reality is strung tight with a specific acoustic pitch. When an unseen hand plucks that invisible thread, a physical event manifests in our world. A dormant volcano violently clears its throat of ash. An empire crumbles under the suffocating weight of its own dissonant noise. A new era dawns on, the golden wings of a sudden harmonic shift. This is the hidden, terrifyingly beautiful mechanics of creation itself. Now I need you to pull that staggering galactic scale rapidly back down into your own physical body. Bring your entire focus to the small, incredibly fragile structure sitting in the front of your neck. Your larynx is an overlooked, unparalleled evolutionary masterpiece. For tens of thousands of years, we utilized it merely as a blunt tool for basic biological survival. We used it to scream frantic warnings across wide, dangerous hunting grounds. We used it to barter for meager rations in crowded, dusty marketplaces. We used it to whisper sweet, fleeting illusions in the dark, to stave off our deep ancestral loneliness. But this intricate assembly of cartilage and muscle was always destined for something infinitely greater. The timeline of 2026 represents the precise activation point of a dormant cosmic protocol. Your throat is currently undergoing a profound, irreversible metaphysical metamorphosis. It is completely ceasing to function as a simple biological organ of social communication. It is actively transmuting into a highly localized tuning fork for source energy. Many of you can already feel this structural upgrade occurring within your own flesh. Perhaps you have recently noticed a sudden, inexplicable heat rising in your vocal cords when you speak a profound truth. Maybe you have experienced a strange, persistent pressure at the base of your throat during moments of intense clarity. It feels remarkably like swallowing a warm, pulsing ember that refuses to go out. You might feel a subtle electrical vibration traveling down your vagus nerve, sending shivers across your chest cavity. This is absolutely not a medical anomaly or a symptom of seasonal illness. This is your physical tissue actively aligning with the flawless geometry of the primordial sound. Your vocal apparatus is being drastically upgraded to handle a massive influx of creative current. Imagine an ancient copper wire suddenly commanded to carry the raw voltage of a lightning strike. The physical vessel must fundamentally adapt its capacity, or it will completely shatter. This precise biological adaptation is the ultimate purpose behind the wave of physical discomfort so many are currently reporting. Source energy is actively preparing your earthly biology to serve as a primary acoustic conduit. When this extraordinary transformation reaches its final completion, the fundamental rules of human existence will change forever. Those who successfully master these subtle tonal shifts will step into a terrifyingly beautiful form of power. You will no longer use vocabulary merely to describe the environment surrounding you. You will wield sound to directly command the morphogenetic field. The morphogenetic field is the unseen, energetic blueprint that rigorously dictates all physical form. It is the invisible, shimmering scaffolding that holds the dense material world intact. The vast majority of people walk blindly through life, constantly bouncing off this invisible scaffolding. They firmly believe reality is rigid, unforgiving, and entirely outside of their personal jurisdiction. They helplessly beg the unfeeling universe for small favors and random strokes of luck. They desperately hope their quiet prayers might accidentally pierce the thick ceiling of their limitations. But a true master of resonance never begs for anything. A master intimately understands that physical reality is nothing more than highly malleable acoustic clay. Let me paint a vivid picture of what this actualized mastery looks like in your daily practice. Imagine walking into a corporate boardroom or a crowded family gathering, thick with anxiety and impending conflict. The air in the room feels heavy, metallic, and distinctly hard to breathe. The energetic pressure is dense enough to make the hair on your arms stand up. Ordinary, unconscious people would react by raising their voices in defensive, reactive panic. They would instinctively add chaotic, jagged noise to an already dangerously unstable environment. You, however, will recognize your ordained role as a conscious cosmic orchestrator. You will plant your feet firmly and draw a slow, deliberate breath into the deepest chambers of your lungs. You will scan your internal registry for the exact harmonic frequency required to neutralize the frantic chaos. You will gently open your mouth and deliver a simple, seemingly ordinary sentence. The dictionary definition of the words you choose will barely matter at all. It is the sheer resonant weight carried behind those vowels that will perform the miraculous heavy lifting. Your voice will roll out into the space like a thick, invisible blanket of liquid gold. It will instantaneously overwrite the jagged, destructive frequencies bouncing off the drywall. You will literally watch the physical posture of the angry people around you melt into an involuntary state of peace. Their frayed nervous systems will instinctively submit to the superior geometry of your tone. You will have successfully spoken harmony directly into physical existence. This breathtaking capability is the grand, monumental climax of the human experiment on Earth. We were absolutely not seeded on this beautiful blue planet to remain helpless, suffering victims of circumstance. We were intricately designed from the very beginning to eventually operate as conscious co-creators. The conscious universe has been patiently, silently waiting for us to finally find our true voice. It has been holding the great conductor's baton suspended in mid-air for thousands of lifetimes. In the pivotal year of 2026, the cosmic downbeat finally drops. When you successfully lock your vocal frequency into this highest echelon, you do infinitely more than survive a shift. You permanently anchor your soul's destiny to the grandest architecture of creation. You fully detach your consciousness from the exhausting, repetitive karmic wheel of suffering and chaotic noise. You transform into a permanent, integral, and essential note in the eternal cosmic symphony. Your personal destiny is no longer something written passively by the distant, uncaring stars. You become the sovereign architect who literally sings the stars into their proper, radiant alignment. The long era of passive observation has come to an absolute, definitive end. You must now actively claim your rightful position within this magnificent new acoustic architecture. You must boldly declare your state of readiness to the entire morphogenetic field. Your rapidly shifting physical reality requires a concrete verbal confirmation of your highest spiritual intent. Go directly to the comments section right now and type these exact powerful words. I understand my mission. Write it as a deliberate physical anchor for your rapidly evolving throat chakra. Let the physical act of typing that simple sentence be the first conscious command you issue to the universe today. I understand my mission.